Hi, this is Eric from longboxreview.com. Welcome to the show. This episode, I want to talk about some Marvel comics that I've been reading. So if you listen to last episode, episode 102, I talked with Damien, Sleepy Reader 666, about the first wave, if you will, the first releases of DC's Rebirth. And so I thought I would continue that conversation, so to speak, in regards to the Marvel comics that I'm reading. I'll go back to some of the other DC stuff when some other comics have come out, and I've read a few of them. And also, I plan to do a look at the independent books that I'm reading, and I'm actually really looking forward to talking about those. But this episode, like I said, I'm going to focus on the Marvel comics that I've been reading lately. And I'll start off with the all new, all different Avengers, which I believe the last issue that I read was number 12, which was, I think, a tie-in. No, it isn't. It was the completion of I want to say the Nova story, where they go off into the negative zone, looking for Nova's dad. There have been some tie-ins to the recent Civil War stuff as well going on here. But in general, I wanted to read this because Mark Waid was writing the Avengers, and you got some good art in Mahmoud Asrar doing stuff on it. I know Adam Kubert was also doing some art on some issues. I just prefer Asrar's stuff. Besides Mark Waid, the allure of Mark Waid on this book, I really wanted to pick it up because of the younger heroes that were brought in. So you have the Miles Morales Spider-Man, you have Ms. Marvel, and you have Nova. So you got these three younger characters, and they are spinning off into their own title. The Champions I saw in the latest issue of Previews, and I'll be really looking at that. I think that's written by Mark Waid as well. So the strong appeal of the Avengers book for me was those younger characters, and as well as some of the older characters that we have. So you have the Iron Man's involved. You've got Sam Wilson's Captain America, and more importantly, the mighty Thor, Jane Foster, in that role. So and of course the Vision, which has always been one of my very favorite Marvel characters. So all those characters involved, I thought, well, this should be a pretty good read. And I have to say, I was kind of disappointed, actually. Besides those things I just mentioned that I like, the overall story so far, or stories so far, have been a little lackluster for me. I really did not care for the whole Vision being compromised thing, where he's programmed to be a bad guy. It was interesting to see that lead up, where the Vision was doing things that were uncharacteristic of himself, and how he tried to blackmail, or was blackmailing, Nova there for a couple issues. But overall, I guess I just don't care for that, because it seems like that happens a lot with the Vision, and it's just a storyline that's just been played out in my mind. But I did like the latest story where the Avengers go off into space and also into the negative zone and battle. Oh, what's his name from the negative zone? I'm forgetting who that is. Oh, it's Annihilus. That's right. How can I forget Annihilus? Anyway, I really like that. I also have liked the brief flirtation so far. I guess I'm not sure where this is going, but the kiss between Thor and Captain America, which ended up with Sam finding out that that Jane Foster is in fact the mighty Thor, and that she is in treatment for cancer. So I think that perhaps that revelation has or will take that relationship in a different way than perhaps it started out as. But I thought that was an interesting take on those two characters and the relationship that they were starting to develop. However, I don't know. Like I said, given that the Champions is coming out featuring these younger characters, I don't know if I will continue with the all new, all different Avengers, but we'll see. Doctor Strange has certainly been an interesting book to read. I have to be honest. Doctor Strange is not a character in Marvel Comics that I particularly care for all that much. He's a great supporting character. I liked him in the New Avengers run that he was in, where he was helping out Power Man and the rest of the other Avengers with that group. But as a leading character, I've never really thought of him as much of a really good leading character. But when I saw that Jason Aaron, who also writes one of the best superhero comics out there, The Mighty Thor right now, when I saw that Jason Aaron was going to be taking on Doctor Strange, I thought, well, I have to see where this is going. And I will admit that I have enjoyed the Last Days of Magic storyline that's been going on. The last issue I read was number 10, which was the finale of that story. So while I have really enjoyed certain aspects of this book, it also is something that hasn't set my my comic reading on fire, if you will. So I'm actually looking at dropping this book in the near future. But for what I have read, like I said, I've enjoyed The Last Days of Magic. I like the take on, or I like the inclusion of all of the magic characters. You got Shaman, Scarlet Witch, some other ones I've forgotten already. Oh man. Anyway, but how Doctor Strange interacts with them, and also the new character of Zelma. What's her name? Zelma Stanton, as a part-time book picker-upper or librarian, to be generous. She was introduced, I believe, in the first issue or the second issue? First issue. Anyway, she seems to be continuing character, and I like her. It's a fresh perspective. Also, a fresh perspective is being given to Doctor Strange's companion, manservant. I'm not sure what the appropriate term is. Wong is, he described himself in one issue as a kung fu instructor, spiritual advisor, cook. Anyway, he serves many different roles and is glad to do it. But more importantly, what I really liked how they fleshed out Wong was not only does he perform those kinds of functions for Doctor Strange on a day-to-day basis, what he also does is he has his own little how best to describe it. He has his own little side project where he uses magic and actually other people to take on the wounds and the healing of Doctor Strange in his fight against the dark arts, the dark magic. So I thought that was a really cool revelation that we got. And also, what else did I like? Well, I think that's the bulk of the things that I really like. Oh, no, the art in this, the Chris Bachalo. Anyway, I'm not sure how to pronounce that artist's name. And Tim Townsend, for the most part, for inks. Their work on this, the visual nature of this has just been wonderful. It's a wonderfully visualized magic and magical creatures by these artists. Has a bit of in the first or second issue, reminded me a lot of Beetlejuice, that imagery with the tentacles and whatnot. And I'm sure that was um, that was intentional, but it was still cool to see. And just all of the renderings of these magical creatures and just the magic itself has been really cool visually. So I really like that aspect of the book. What I don't, what I haven't really cared for is a lot of the insertion of humor with Doctor Strange, but that may be because I have been so used to a certain presentation of the Good Doctor that the level of humor that has been put into the book is off-putting to me, and I think I just need to get used to the idea that this character, or that the humor for this character actually does work. It's a nice change of pace from like the real dramatic, magical stuff that's going on. So it does provide a nice balance for all of the death and mayhem that's going on because of the new bad guys for the storyline, which are the Empiriku. This is a science-based foe, or a group that is coming along and destroying all magic because of the main character, the main bad guy, whose name I've forgotten, or is he just called Empiriku? Anyway, it doesn't matter. It's somewhat of an obvious antagonism, science versus magic. It does remind me a lot, and this is the part about the Empiriku that I don't care for. It reminds me a lot of what Aaron did in the Thor book with Gore and the God Bomb and all that stuff, where you have the character Gore fighting against gods because of his hatred of his own gods, and he just keeps going on and going up against all these other gods, and ends up eventually running into Thor, and their struggle with each other. So it's very similar, and I have to admit I didn't notice that at first. That came from Damien, from a comment he made on, I think, on Twitter to me about the book. But once he made that observation, I'm like, oh my god, yeah, it's really obvious now. I guess I'm just too stupid to see some of those things sometimes, but I have been enjoying the book for the most part. So I'm reserving judgment for now because I want to see where the book goes from here. Another book that I'm reading from Marvel is Spider-Man, and so this is the Miles Morales character in that role. And I have not read a whole lot of this Spider-Man. I know it's hugely popular with a lot of people. I just never really got into it. But then when the Ultimate Universe and the main Marvel Universe kind of merged, Miles is now part of the I guess, is it? I have to admit, even though I've read Secret Wars, I don't know if there's only basically one Marvel universe or what. Anyway, I really wanted to see what this character would do, given that he is Spider-Man, but there's also the quote unquote main Spider-Man. So I wanted to read that. Plus, I really like Sarah Pichelli's art. And I have always been a big fan of Brian Michael Bendis as a writer. So I like it overall. But my main complaint is it doesn't seem to be going anywhere. Really, the only thing that's happened is that, which I did like this part, Black Cat decides to take out her animosity towards Spider-Man in general because of what, I think it was when Doc Ock was still running the Spider-Man body. And she decides to take revenge, or to basically take down Spider-Man. And of course, Miles is Spider-Man, and so she decides that he's fair game too. So there was a struggle there. And as I recall, I'm only in 6 issues, but I don't really remember the resolution of that. Didn't end well for Miles. So Black Cat really did a number on him. I think he basically got out of there alive, and that was it. Anyway, my lack of memory aside, the only other things that have been going on recently, main things that have been going on recently, is that Miles' grandmother, his mother's mom, is staying with the family, and she thinks that he's on drugs. So she's instituted a lot of restrictions and hired a private investigator, Jessica Jones, to spy on him, which that's kind of neat, to see Jessica Jones here. But that whole aspect of it. Oh, and his dad, I think, has been recruited by SHIELD to keep tabs on things. So there's a lot of truth being obfuscated by various characters here in the story, and I do find that appealing. I really do. But just the grandmother is just a little over the top for my taste. And then the recent introduction of the former X-Men character Goldballs. He just comes. While I like the character, he just seemed to be shoehorned into this story, and I'm not sure why. Other than I suspect that Bendis really likes that character for some reason. So it is what it is. I don't particularly care for that. So I'm really looking forward to seeing where we're going with this book. And I really hope something picks up or something connects with me a little bit stronger than what has come already. Because I really do like the character, and I want to read more Spider-Man books, or read more stories featuring this Spider-Man. I talked about Jason Aaron and his run on Thor, and of course this is the Mighty Thor. I'm up to issue number 9. This continues since day one of Aaron's start on Thor to be one of the best superhero comics that I read each and every month. So if you're not reading this book, I'm sorry you're not, because it's great fun. There's a lot of really cool stuff with Asgard, with Odin and his brother. What's his name? I think his name is Kull, perhaps. Obviously, Freya. I've never really been into the Norse gods in the Marvel universe, other than obviously Thor and maybe the Warriors 3. But the stuff that's been going on in Aaron's run on this book. Oh, and of course I have to mention Russell Dodderman doing the art with Matt Wilson on colors. Phenomenal team. These 3 people, phenomenal team. Really knocking it out of the park. But I am interested in Asgardian relationships and politics, especially. Freya was the all mother there for a while, and then Odin came back, and he's all petulant and yelly and and basically just a big dick. And I really hate Odin right now. But I do have to admit that I miss Thor, Odin's son, Thor Odin's son. But he's getting his own book, and I'll be getting that too. But that aside, Jane Foster in the role of Thor has just been a breath of fresh air. It's been a lot of fun to see how she reacts and interacts with all of the familiar characters who are used to reacting and interacting with Thor Odin's son. So I really like that. There's the SHIELD agent. What's her name? Roz, I believe. She's been a major part of this run as well. And it's just been so much fun. So it's a new take on an old character concept, and it just feels fresh and new and exciting, and it's wonderful. And I don't know how many other adjectives I can throw at this book to entice you to read it if you haven't, because it's so good. It's so good. You should definitely be reading The Mighty Thor. The next book I have in my Marvel pull list is The Ultimates, and so this is done by Al Ewing with what's his first name? Rocafort is his last name. That's not coming to me, guys. Sorry, I didn't include the first names in my notes, but I got this mostly because Al Ewing was writing it, and I've been following Al Ewing's work in the Marvel Universe now for a while. And so that was the first draw. The second was that it was kind of sold to me as Marvel Cosmic, and not to not and included with that were the characters that were involved. So Black Panther's in it, the Blue Marvel, Captain Marvel. What's her name? America Chavez. What Miss America, is that Miss? No, wow, I've forgotten already. Sorry. But that character, and they have some other supporting characters or people that come in and out of it as well. But so those characters dealing with cosmic level threats in the Marvel Universe, totally appealing to me. So the first story, basically in the first issue, maybe first two issues of it. See, what am I? I'm issue number 9 now. But the first couple issues dealt with the Galactus problem, and they solved Galactus's hunger. What? I thought that was really cool. So now I think he's referred to as the Life Bringer instead of the Devourer. So I thought that was really neat. The latest story, or the latest issue, number 9, featured, like, it looks like a one-off story with this character called the Infininaut that the Blue Marvel has combated over many times over the years. And so basically the Infininaut is returned, and so this actually is a tie-in to Civil War II, where the character who can predict the future makes an appearance here and predicts that the Infininaut is coming. And of course, if the Infininaut arrives into our universe, it will destroy the Earth and maybe even the whole universe. So the Ultimates get together and work out a way to basically bring what was presented as a cosmic level threat, a quote unquote bad guy, turns out to be just another explorer. It's just the way that the two universes interact caused this threat, or extinction level threat nature of the Infininaut's appearances. So they figured that out. But like I was saying, what it reminds me of a bit is late 70s Legion. So the Infininaut, to me, really the look and the threat of the Infininaut really reminded me of the Infinite Man from the Legion. But regardless, I don't know if that's an homage or just a fun happenstance. But for me, I'm making those connections. I really enjoyed that. What I'm not liking so much about the book is the lack of character development and interpersonal interactions with the characters. Lots of great concepts going on in this book, but not too much in terms of how does Black Panther interact with. Oh, and I forgot, Spectrum's in this too. There seems to be some sort of Spectrum and Blue Marvel relationship that's developing. So there's, to be fair, there's a little bit of that, but 9 issues in, and I don't really have a good sense of what the characters as teammates are about. So they get together and they address the issue of the day, but they don't, there's not a lot of like I said, off time interaction. Other than them kind of arguing with each other about kind of high-minded philosophical stuff. So I'd really like to get to know more about Miss America, I want to say. Gosh. More about her especially. She was in the great Young Avengers run there for a while, and so she's moved over to this team. But I still don't have a good sense of who this character is, why she's there, what motivates her, how she interacts with other people. So it's mostly her that I want more of this stuff about. Also, Black Panther. Ever since and I'll talk more about him and his book here in a bit. But ever since Hickman wrote him in the New Avengers book a while back, I have just been wanting more and more Black Panther. So he was a big draw for me to pick up this book when I knew he was going to be in it as well. Plus, I like the Blue Marvel too. He's an interesting character for the Marvel Universe, and I would like to see more of him. Okay, the final book that I am currently getting, well, I shouldn't say that. All of these books I'm getting, but I've decided to drop a few, and I'll talk about those next. But the final book that's not on the drop list, although it's ending very soon. So this is The Vision. This is issue number 9. So this is ending with issue number 12. This is the great, the fantastic, the awesome, wonderful Tom King and Gabriel Walta with Jordi Belair, Walta doing art, Jordi Belair doing colors. This team, wow. Tom King has come up with such a great take on the Vision and how he interacts with certain characters, the fact that he has a family now. I really like just the narrative turn that Tom King has taken in his approach with his character. It actually the descriptive terms that come to mind, it's urban noir. It reminds me a little of Raymond Carver, if you're familiar with that great writer's work. Small town American Gothic, that's the other phrase that comes to mind. You also have a little bit of not a little bit, a lot of foreshadowing, narrative foreshadowing, where where the author tells you that bad things are coming, even though we haven't got to that point yet. So it helps to ramp. And usually I'm kind of cold when it comes to that kind of stuff, but the way that Tom King, the words he's using, the way he's presenting the story, it's really ramping up the whole tension of this story arc. And it's just been a great series. If you haven't been picking up the individual issues, just wait for the trade. It's definitely a must buy, and I have to decide if I want to buy the hardback version of this when it comes out. Okay, like I said, there are some other books that I was reading by Marvel that I decided to drop recently when I did my last order from previews, and two of them have black in the title, and one character wears black. So I guess that's the theme. I don't know. It just happens to be that way. But Black Panther is one of those books, and I know a lot of people really like this book. They like Ta-Nehisi Coates' vision of this character. Pardon that. Brian Stelfreeze is doing the art. Uh, it was okay. It was to me. I did appreciate the expansion of the Wakandan stuff, the politics involved, the characters. The latest issue that I read, I think it was number 4. There was this great scene between T'Challa's mother and this former romantic interest of hers, who was a political rival of T'Challa's father. So that was really cool. I enjoyed that. But this whole the civil unrest thing, while it's a perfectly acceptable story, just doesn't appeal to me. Not sure why exactly. Part of it has to do with I'm not seeing enough. It's only 4 issues in, so maybe I'm being too critical of the story. But it's not. There's not enough focus on T'Challa himself. He seems to be reacting a lot and seemingly powerless in many ways, given the situation that's going on in Wakanda, and maybe that's realistic in terms of a nation ruler such as himself, where he cannot, just by sheer will alone, he cannot force people to accept a certain path and behave a certain way. So he's having struggles dealing with it. Plus he seems to be struggling with being the ruler of Wakanda. Anyway, as one character pointed out in the book to him, he hasn't given Wakanda his total attention. They say it in a much better way than I just did, but that's the takeaway for me. And that stuff does appeal to me, but for some reason, there's something about this book, and I can't put my finger on it. It's just not doing it for me. So after I think the fifth issue, I'm done with this book. So if I'm wrong about that, and you really think that I prematurely dropped a fantastic book and I'm not seeing certain things, and here they are, please, I would love for you to tell me what it is that I'm missing about the latest incarnation of Black Panther. The other book that I've decided to drop, also, not a fault really of any one thing. It just isn't grabbing me for some reason, which is funny because it's by the same team who worked on Daredevil recently. This is Mark Waid, but more importantly, I think Chris Samney, who's I think he's really driving this story, and his art on the book is fantastic. I don't know. Maybe it's the character, maybe it's Black Widow herself. I've never really been a Black Widow fan, which is kind of funny because I love Black Widow in the Marvel movies. But I also don't think that we need to have that version of the character in the books. So I don't know. Like I said, it's wonderfully drawn. I just don't feel a connection to her. She seems to be mostly reacting to the situation. The plot of the storyline. This is issue 5, is the latest one I've read. She's being blackmailed essentially, and things are not going well for her. But there's this whole what do they call it? The Red Room, where she was trained as a child to be the operative that she is today. And then there's the, I think they're calling it the Black Room or the Dark Room. I can't remember. Probably the Black Room, which seems to be another version of that. And so she's going up against characters that are a result of that training. I think one of which is a younger child. So that, I guess that's interesting as well. But like I said, it's just not doing it for me. So I probably will be dropping this book very soon. And finally, the last Marvel comic that was on my pull list out of all these is Daredevil. So this is the Charles Soule written book where Daredevil is back in New York and his secret identity is back in the bottle somehow, which that is a major intriguing aspect of this latest incarnation of Daredevil. He's in a mostly black suit with red accents instead of being in his traditional suit. So maybe that, that's, I guess that's supposed to signify the darker nature of the character. He's now working for the DA's office, although that's probably in question right now, given that he has not done a really good job in that role. And he has a sidekick, whose name I've forgotten already. So many questions here. Why did he return to New York? How did his identity get reasserted? Why does he have a sidekick? Why is he working the DA's office? All these answers I'm sure are coming, but just like with Black Widow, it's not connecting with me. And I'm usually a huge sidekick fan. I love the DC sidekick characters, but the fact that Daredevil has a sidekick, I guess because I haven't seen it. I haven't seen it develop. It's just there, and I'm not getting enough of these two characters and why their relationship is the way it is. I did, though, like I said, in issue number 9 is the latest issue I've read. I did really like the guest star, which was Peter Parker's Spider-Man in it, and there was a lot of back and forth between the two characters about their relationship, how far back they go, how much they trust each other. And Spider-Man, I think he senses something. I don't know if it's his spider sense or if whatever magic or whatever it is that Matt Murdock did to take back his secret identity. So even Spider-Man doesn't know that he's Matt Murdock anymore. So So I somehow Spider-Man is sensing something's off, and so all these little bits about Daredevil, about this particular volume of Daredevil, appeal to me, but put them all together, the sum of its parts are just not doing it. So I've actually dropped that book already. I think issue number 9 is my last issue. Yeah, so that's it. I don't have that many Marvel books on my pull list. It's only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 right now. There's also Powers, but that's not part of the quote unquote main Marvel universe. I love Powers. It just comes out so infrequently that it's kind of irritating because I forget from 1 month to the next 6 month. There's between one issue and the other. There's a 6 month gap or a 5 month gap or an 8 month gap or whatever it is. I'm just making numbers up. I don't know exactly how long it's been in between issues, but I know that it's not coming out regularly, and that's too bad because it's a great series by Bendis and Michael Avon Emming. Let's see what else. I guess the other thing that I'm quote unquote collecting or getting from Marvel are the Miracle Man. Wow, say that 5 times fast. Miracle Man hardcover series. So I actually have all those issues from back when it was first published in the 80s. But Marvel acquired the rights to Miracle Man and has been putting out a comic and then collecting them in the hardcover. So it's a great series that I think deserves a hardcover treatment. I've got, I think, 4 of them now. At least 4 of them. I know I have 4 of them. But, it's just collecting a series I've already read. So it's not high on my list of favorite things from Marvel. I mean, it is, but it's not something I'm reading, quote unquote reading. So anyway, that's the Marvel stuff that I want to talk about. But wait, there's more. So after I recorded all of the stuff that you just listened to, I got a few more Marvel comics in and I read them. And so I just wanted to update some things that I had talked about regarding those titles. One of which, the first one is I read The Mighty Thor number 10. And so I talked a lot about how, Jane Foster as the new Mighty Thor is really cool. And it's still the best superhero comic that I'm reading right now. In fact, when I got my shipment of comics in recently, that comic went to the very top of my stack for me to read. But what I wanted to impart about this particular issue is that at the very end of the book, and forgive me, this may be a spoiler if you haven't read it yet, so fast forward or skip over this if you are concerned about that. But these 2 gung-ho S.H.I.E.L.D. agents who have been after Thor / Jane Foster and continually accuse Thor of being Jane Foster. They arrive on the scene where Roz Solomon and Thor have just defeated what's his name, the head of Roxxon, Agur. So they just defeated him, and so the 2 agents are there, and they're saying, "Okay, Thor, come with Thor / Jane Foster. Just admit who you are and come with us." And then all of a sudden, and because Thor is injured by what's her name, Oubliette. I don't know if I pronounced that correct. Anyway, shot Thor with a bullet containing her father's blood, which means that anything that her father touched turned to gold, and so Thor's hand is turning to gold. Well, guess who shows up at the other end, from the other end of the Rainbow Bridge? It's none other than Dr. Jane Foster, and she says, "I'm here to help." So what? That was a nice turn. I can't wait to see what happens next. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I think this is one of the best comics out there right now. Next up is The Ultimates number 10. This is also another Civil War II tie-in. So one of my main criticisms about this book was the lack of kind of character development, and not that we get any more of that, but we are getting more interaction between the characters, although it's very contentious. And I also talked about how I wanted to know more about Ms. America. It's Ms., not Miss. I apologize for that. And we get that a little bit in this one. And also a bit of expansion of Ms. America's abilities. One of the things that she can do, one of her major powers, is that she can basically punch holes through reality. Well, not only can she do that, she can apparently make these portals come out of her eyes. So these star portals come out of her eyes, and she ends up trapping Spectrum, who intended to try to stop her because Ms. America has had enough of Carol Danvers' crap, and starts lashing out. So I thought that was pretty cool. It was a nice continuation of the current story and how the characters are interacting with each other. And of course, just kind of like the end of the Mighty Thor, the final pages, the stuff has hit the fan, and it makes you really want to read the next issue. So I talked a bit about how I didn't like in the all new, all different Avengers, the story with the Vision and how he was controlled, and how I've seen that before. I will say though, I just read issue number 13, and it's a very Vision centric story where he is deciding to kind of take care of the Kang problem before it even starts. So it's kind of the whole would you kill Hitler as a baby so they wouldn't rise to power and do all that evil crap. Same sort of concept, and the Vision actually does go back in time and tries to prevent those things from happening. There is this shadow creature who shows up, and at first it seems like it is, or he or she, I'm not sure what it is, but the shadow creature is trying to stop Vision, but then not really, because the creature there, that shadow creature, shows up and he says, "I'm here to protect you." So I'm really curious, who that is, why they're doing what they're doing, and Vision embarks on a very ambitious plan here by abducting Kang as a baby. So we'll see how that all turns out. And then finally, I have Black Widow number 6. So this is my final issue. I did talk about how I was going to drop this book, and this is the final issue. And this was a nice way to end this current story. Well, it's not really ending, but it's this is like the end of the first chapter, so to speak. And it shows Black Widow, Natasha, having a little bit more to do and say about her path, about her what's going on with her. So a lot of the stuff that's been going on in the first 5 issues, she's been reacting to, and here it's quite clear, and to me, it's nice to see that she's taking charge of things to her in her favor. So I really like that, but it's not enough still to kind of keep me with a book. Quite honestly, I'm reading some other spy-based comic books out there, and I prefer those. So Velvet is the far superior spy comic book, and I'll stick with that one. Thank you. I think that's all I need to say about those books. So like I said at the top of the episode, I wanted to talk about those things that I'm reading right now. I started with some DC Rebirth stuff. This episode, it was the Marvel, and I will be talking about some independent stuff very soon on a future episode, as well as more DC stuff as it's released. So if you are reading any of these books and you have opinions about them that either agree with mine or, more importantly, where they do not agree with me, you can always let me know your thoughts. I'd love to hear from you and what you think about these Marvel comics that I am reading or have read recently. And you could do so by emailing me at longboxreview@gmail.com, or you can contact me on Twitter at longboxreview. Go to the Facebook page as well. All this information is in the show notes, or you can go to longboxreview.com and click the contact or /feedback tab, and there's all that stuff there as well. So let me know what you think about these Marvel books, and I'm looking forward to hearing from you. Take care, and thanks for listening.